All right.
We're just going to run through. A lot of people ask us, how can I buy a house and fix it up? And that's what we're going to talk about today is the renovation loans. And there are two of them, as Sharissa just mentioned. There's the FHA 203K, which is the more common version that people are aware of. The main difference is you have to live and own or occupy the property for that program versus the Fannie Mae home style, which you can use for investment properties. So that's kind of the main distinction. If you do not plan to live in the property, it's going to be used for investment purposes, you're going to want to look at the Fannie Mae home style renovation loan.
Awesome. Okay, so primarily the big difference is really investor versus like live-in occupant.
Exactly, yep.
Great. All right, so let's just get down to brass tacks. I'm going to start with the questions that I have lined up. And if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in and give me those questions up on the screen. So number one, how much money does someone have to put down in order to secure one of these loans?
So with the FHA version of the renovation loan, the 203K, you can buy a property with as little as 3.5% down. So you really don't need a lot of money down to do one of these projects. If you go with the home style, you need to put 5% down in most cases. So not a lot of money.
Great. Well, that's actually really good for first-time home buyers. A lot of people are still under the impression that 20% is what's needed for your down payment. And in fact, with a renovation loan and actually most or pretty much all FHA loans, it's pretty much 3.5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. So if you don't have a ton of money saved up, it's not an obstacle for you. Secondly, so what about the credit score? Because that's always the next question, right? What about the credit?
Yeah, so especially with the FHA version, they're a lot more forgiving with credit. We can do these renovation loans with like a 620 credit score is probably the floor for the renovation loans. With the FHA conventional, you might want to be a little around 640. So you don't have to have excellent credit to do one of these loans.
So, okay, so you don't need excellent credit. However, we all know that the better your credit is, the lower your interest rate, correct?
For sure.
So you always want to still, work on your credit as much as you can because that's still an advantage to you. And generally, there are definitely ways you can do that on your own or with help. Like, there's credit repair companies. There are definitely lots of guides out there. There are podcasts. So if your credit score is a concern, definitely do some more research, or you can reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you to any of my sources and partners. Well, Chris definitely has some people that he can help you out with. So moving right along here, what's the maximum amount I can use or I can borrow for one of these loans for the FHA 203K?
It depends on the county that you're in. Each county has their own loan limits. So FHA will have their loan limits, and then the conventional across the board in all the surrounding counties here is going to be $484,350.
Wow, sounds specific.
Somebody did some research and they got very specific. So on the home style, you have to fit the renovation and the acquisition cost in there. So keep that in mind. The FHA limits are going to be lower, and they're going to vary by county, but you can still get into the high 3s and low 4s depending on the county. So you can just reach out to me if you have questions on specific counties, what the loan limits are.
So I can't try to fix up our $800,000 house on a 203K loan.
Wouldn't be a good fit to buy an $800,000 house trying to fix it up.
Right. I mean, I guess that's probably not really what you're looking for anyway if you're doing an FHA 203K loan anyway. So what kind of repairs can you do? Because I want to know, everybody wants to know whether or not a roof deck is an appropriate repair.
Absolutely.
Can they get a pool in there? How about a jacuzzi? Are there limits on what can be done to the property?
So with the renovations on these loans, it's easier to probably tell you what you cannot finance versus what you can. Mostly everything, your roof deck, for those city folks, it's good. So, the real exclusions are luxury items like a pool, landscaping, just because it's not permanent. So landscaping, pools, jacuzzis, those things are what you're not able to finance. almost everything else will fit into the project. The material you want to use, whether you want to use, granite, quartz, nobody gets into regulating what you can use. It just all has to fit into the budget. So really, you can do almost anything with these loans. There's not very many restrictions on the renovations themselves, outside of the luxury items like a pool.
So does it have to be a necessary renovation, or could it just be, hey, I want a finished basement and this is not finished? Is that considered?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The renovations, there are, if you do the FHA loans, there are what they call the minimum property standards. So you have to bring the property up to, if it's a total gut, you have to bring the property up to the minimum property requirements.
Got it.
Outside of that, the rest can be discretionary. Just, hey, I want to blow out this wall, I want to make the kitchen bigger, any of that stuff, totally fine.
So great. So even if I were an investor and I were using the renovation loan, I can really soup up a nice property and like not even have to worry about like what it's like to live in there at the end of the day. All right, next, what are there additional costs involved in this renovation loan above your down payment and the closing costs?
Great question. So the additional costs, you want to be prepared for a little bit of additional costs on the loan side. I'd say probably anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. There's just some additional fees that go along with it. And then depending on the type of project, you may need to get an FHA 203 consultant involved, and their fee will vary depending on the scope of work with the project. So if you need a consultant, what they'll do is they're going to be the liaison between you, the contractor, and the bank. And in some projects they're required depending on the scope of work, and in some they're not. And they're probably going to be in the $500 to $1,000 range depending on your scope of work.
The consultant.
The consultant.
The consultant himself. And just so you guys know, I'm actually looking or making connections right now with 203K consultants, just so you have that additional service really at your fingertips. If that's something that you're interested in doing with the renovation loan, we have people that we can call on in both of our networks. So we're happy to provide that as well. And I'm, currently making more of these connections. So generally, your
and this
consultant
can all be financed as well. So most of the time, all of these, additional fees you can finance. And
oh wow,
so
really?
Yeah, so
if you're like, let's say when you say finance, do you mean like I can get a gift from my Uncle Joe?
No. You can roll them in as part of your rehab budget. Is part of the cost for this. So
got it.
There are a little bit of additional costs, but we'll talk about how you can make up for those additional costs through the instant equity that you're going to build in the property. So it's actually, if you look at the big picture, there are additional fees, but the big picture is you're going to have a lot more equity than if you just went to current market to buy something that was already rehabbed.
Awesome. Okay, great, because we're actually going to do a live actual property so that you can see how this works together and so you understand exactly how this whole thing unfolds and what like the property would be like before and after it's renovated, and generally what level that you want to be aiming at. So does the contractor need to be approved?
The contractor does not need to be approved in most cases. They need to be licensed, insured, and provide 3 references. So as long as they can check all those boxes, in most cases, you're not going to need an approval from the bank for your contractor outside of them providing those items.
Awesome. Well, that's positive. Can the homeowner do the repairs, or do they definitely need a contractor?
No, that's the biggest question that we get with these loans. I think everybody's got, cousin Johnny, Uncle Vinny, everybody knows a contractor that can come in and is going to do the rehab for half the price. The banks don't want to get into allowing the homeowners to do the work because there's liability that exists there. And especially if you have somebody that's doing the work well below market value, if something government happens to them or they, get frustrated and walk off the job, you have to go to the open market and get a contractor to finish this project.
And then you've already set your budget and everything's all thrown out.
So it just generally speaking, it's for the homeowners, even if you're a licensed contractor, you're gonna have to run it through your company or something, maybe, but the general answer would be no. As a homeowner, you're not able to do the work.
Got it. So what if I'm a contractor that is now purchasing a home as myself, as an investor? Does that, can I get past that rule that way?
It gets sticky. I mean, if you can sub it out through, contract it through your company, possibly, but just for the average homeowner, that,
Yeah.
it's not possible.
Got it. Great. And how long do you have to complete the project? Is there a maximum amount of time you can take to, hi guys, complete this whole thing? I'm just seeing, I'm not waving at people. I feel like I should just wave. Hi guys, thanks for joining.
Who we got on there? We got Tony. What's up, Tony?
Wait, Tony's here?
Yeah, we got Tony.
Sorry. My question. I'm like, I had a moment. I have ADHD, guys.
Yeah, so all these notifications popping up. Plus, we want to show you guys some love. What's going on, Ryan? I see you out there. Who else we got?
Oh,
Ryan Stackhouse.
Hi.
He's probably chilling out somewhere. I think he's in Mexico. So thanks for tuning in from the beach. Man, I'm glad we're that entertaining.
I know, right?
What's up, Ryan? So,
jealous.
But yeah, what was the next question?
I forgot actually. Oh, how long do you have to complete the project?
So you want to complete the project, they're going to give you, in most cases, 180 days.
Wow.
So you have 6 months.
That's a long time.
Yes, and I've had people that run over. If it happens, it happens. They'll work with you, but
really,
generally speaking, the black and white rule is 180 days.
So black and white rule is 180 days. So let's say I'm in a lease that ends in December. Do I need to start the renovations before my lease ends or after? I mean, how does that work?
So you can't start the renovations until you acquire the property, right?
Oh, so we have to close and everything.
You have to close.
We have to close and everything first. So where do you live while the renovations are going on?
It depends on the project. So you can, if you're just doing a bathroom or some light renovations.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
You can do that. If you're completely gutting the property, they do allow you to finance up to 6 mortgage payments in with the loan. So you can stay where you are and not have to make 2 mortgage payments. That's an option. If you can avoid it, it's best to do so because you're just kind of adding money to your loan.
Yeah.
But if, again, in the end, some of these things I've seen people come out with $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 in equity. If you have to burn a couple thousand for a few months to, on the back end, pick up a $100,000 gain, you're really not losing out.
It's all about that ROI, right? I mean, it's about that ROI.
Yeah, and look at the short term with these and every little fee, because on the back end, you're going to be building in some equity.
But that's amazing for someone who's not in the business. You know what I mean? That's an amazing advantage that a lot of people are not going to get or know about, even just unless they're in the business. So that's a great advantage for you if you're a first-time home buyer and thinking about a 203K loan. Moving right along here. Do you have to live in the property? Do you have to live in it? You don't have to.
Don't have to.
You don't have to, right?
You can be an investor, do the Fannie Mae home style loan, and you don't have to live in the property.
Got it. I've heard you need a consultant for these loans in addition to an appraisal. Is that true?
Well, again, you may need the 203K consultant or the HUD consultant, depending on the scope of your project. So it depends if you're doing, it depends what the budget is. If the budget's over $35,000, in most cases, you'll need a consultant. Or if you're doing structural renovations, regardless of the budget, you will need that HUD consultant. And Charissa and I have
structural renovations, well.
So if you're taking down any walls, anything like that,
Got it.
even if it's only a $10,000 project, you'll still need a consultant.
Got it. Does the appraiser use the as-is value?
So the value of the home is really where you can, that's the beauty in these loans. A lot of people are like, well, what if I just buy the home and then I'll do a home equity loan? When you do a home equity loan or you're borrowing against the property without a renovation loan, you are going off of the as-is appraised value. So if the house is run down, if it needs a kitchen, it needs bathrooms, the value is going to reflect that. The renovation loan and the power behind these loans is that they're going off of future value. So you're going to give them a scope of work, and they are going to appraise the house as if that scope of work is done. So
It's already
after
done.
repair value.
Got it, got it. So it's the after repair value. How long does it take for these loans to close generally? Because this is like the number one question. Everybody's like, oh, well, I don't want to be waiting 90 days or like 200 days to like move into my brand new spanking roof deck sport in the house, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how
Or
long
people
does
run
it-
from the loans.
All
That's the
people
other
run
thing.
from
They
the
say,
lo-
oh, you can't close them, they take forever.
Right.
You don't want to do them, especially on your side as the real estate agent.
Yep,
You get
we're guilty.
Yeah, you get the realtors that just run, and it's a shame because it is a phenomenal product. I've been in the business since 2005. I've done, quite a few of these loans. I do, a good bit, a handful every year, and every time, everybody involved is so happy. It's a great process. It's nothing to run from, and really from start to finish, if everybody's moving, 45 days is a comfortable process.
Really? So
Yep.
45 days, guys. So if you really think about it, if you plan this correctly with your lease timing and stuff like that, you could definitely be, it's not like you're spending any more time waiting for the project to be done, trying to find a place to stay and stuff like that. So if you're thinking, if your lease is ending in 3 months or 6 months, if you give me at least a month or two's notice, we could still make that loan happen, in a comfortable amount of time. And that's why I always say, if you're thinking about buying a home, you want to talk to your agent about 6 months ahead of time. Your agent, AKA me, about 6 months ahead of time. Moving right along here.
And the other thing I just want to touch
Oh,
on
yeah.
with the timeline, as far as how long do I need as the mortgage broker to close this? I mean, I could probably even close it in 30 days, but there's so many moving parts with possibly a consultant, appraiser, title, all these other things. The biggest piece is going to be the contractor. And no offense to any of you contractors out there, but just like Sharissa and I were struggling with technology here a little bit to get started, we all have our niche. And a lot of times the contractors, they don't like paperwork, and they don't like to fill paperwork out and get things back to us. They just like to make things look pretty.
Right.
So it's key to select a contractor that's comfortable with these loans, that understands how they work. Depending on the size of the project, they may need to front the first draw. So you're going to need to pick contractors that have an established business, and you may pay, a little bit of a premium for that, level of service and that quality contractor, but it is going to make the process so much smoother.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the key to closing one of these in, 45 days, is that you have a contractor that understands what they're getting involved in and that's on board with the process. Otherwise, these things can go south real quick.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had the horror stories, or we've heard the horror stories about contractors, and that's why it's so important to me to keep my referral partners and my, network so tight, because I want everything to move smoothly during the closing process, or even actually long before the closing process, honestly. During the entire transaction, I try to provide as much of a network so that you don't feel like you're running around trying to find someone that you can trust. I'm pretty much vetting everyone. I have contractors. I'm always looking for more business partners. So if you're looking to partner with a realtor, please, I'm happy to have you. Just reach out to me. Moving right along, I said that like 100 times. What if there are overruns during construction and the homeowner doesn't have the money? Ooh, sounds scary.
Right, so you better find it. No.
Oh my gosh.
You'll have half of a project finished. No. So with these loans, they're very, regulated, and they understand that most of the time, the people doing them are just your average homeowner. You're not a contractor. You're not in the trades. And for those of you that are in the trades, you know that, I don't know what kind of webinar we're doing as a PJ, stuff happens, right?
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like,
So,
hopefully there are no like 6-year-olds watching.
Yeah, so stuff happens during construction. You take down a wall, you realize, oh my goodness, there's issues in there. There's old plumbing, there's HVAC, stuff that you just didn't anticipate. So typically, there are overruns on projects. They are going to account for that in the budget. And again, depending on the scope of the work, they'll require a contingency fund. And the contingency fund is usually, it can be as little as 10%, 15 or even 20% of the project if it's a bigger project. And that money will be built in your oops money.
Your oops, but.
Yeah, and if you have an overrun, if something happens, you have your contingency fund, they'll just draw right from that.
Got
So
it.
that way, the construction project, is still moving along.
Right,
If you do not use the contingency money, you can put in a change order, maybe do some other renovations, or they can apply it to your principal balance at the end. So you won't lose that money and it'll go to good use.
awesome. Well, I guess there's a contingency plan for that, kind of like your AOS, which is lovely. Okay, what about the interest rates? I know everybody's worried about the interest rates. Like, what are the interest rates like? Are they significantly different from, your regular FHA loan or your,
Yeah, I mean, they are a little bit different, but they're going to be a little bit higher. And just to use a simple example, maybe 3/8 of a point. So if rates were at 4% on a renovation loan, you might be at 4.375.
Oh, that's not so bad.
No,
Is
not
that,
at all.
how impactful is that in your monthly payment?
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends on the size of the loan.
That's
so
true,
it
yeah.
will change your payment, but again, you kind of have to look at this as an aggregate and look at the entire benefit.
Right.
Because we'll run through an example in a minute,
Yeah.
but I've had people that you put the minimum down payment, which is 3.5% down, you do your project, you finance maybe, 50,000 in repairs, and you come out on the other end with $50,000 in equity. So it's not always about, the cost of the money.
Right.
It's about the ROI, like Sharissa said earlier. So, if you're taking 3.5%, and you're, turning that into, 5 times
Right.
return on your investment,
Right.
it really doesn't matter what you pay.
It's a smart move.
It's a
It's a
smart
smart investment. Yeah, absolutely.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I have had people, it's, oh, well, geez, the interest rate's a little bit higher. It is, but what's the cost of you not being able to do that? The cost of you not doing a renovation loan is you going out to current market, paying 50 to whatever,
Yeah.
$1,000 more, which is gonna be the same payment.
And then you have no equity for a couple of years, or for a while until you start paying off your, that
Exactly.
initial.
You have no equity and you haven't customized the house, because at the end of the day,
That too.
these are typically done by homeowners that want to live in the house, but maybe they don't like the kitchen, they don't like the bathroom, something you want to change, or you need more space for your family, you want to finish the basement or take out some walls. Part of this is, just making a comfortable home for you and your family.
Right.
And you're able to do that on the real estate side a lot more
Efficiently.
if you can open your horizon and say, oh, well, this doesn't quite have everything we're looking for, but we can do that with this renovation loan. So you can, there's not a whole lot of inventory in many of our markets, so it helps with that inventory problem, because you're not looking for the perfect house, just kind of looking for one that's good enough.
Right. And this is huge for people who are looking to be in certain school districts. For example, I work a lot in Queen Village, as everybody knows. A lot of times I'm getting that family that's expanding and they want to be in this school district, but they can't find the property in the size that they need. Or maybe the kitchen needs work, or, maybe they need to add a tub because there's a little one and, they need a tub. Those sorts of things are going to make the difference for people like that, especially because you're also going to have that instant equity. So if you wanted to, you could pull that money that you have on your equity out and buy a second property and rent that out, and now you have college paid for. Do you see how this whole thing works? Do you see that? It's like a whole master plan. There's a lot of leverage, and that's part of the reason I guess I'm doing this, is because there's just needs to be, people need to realize how accessible home ownership actually is if you take the time to figure out what your options are. And that's what I'm hoping to bring to you in terms of value, is letting you know what other options there are available so that you feel empowered to take that step. I have one more or two more questions. How can sellers maximize on the renovation loan? Can sellers use this if they're thinking about selling their home?
Absolutely. So if you're thinking about selling and you think that, well, it'd be great if we had a new kitchen,
right?
Or
because that's a huge upside, right?
Yeah, I mean, Sharissa, when you take someone through a house,
The number one thing they're looking at is the kitchen.
Is the kitchen. So if you don't have that updated kitchen, but you can advertise to a potential buyer, go out and get a bid on a basic, or a decent kitchen renovation, and you can put out flyers to the homeowners that says, hey, you can, this could be your kitchen. I think Zillow does it now, right?
Really?
When you click on Zillow, they've got little ads on the side, and you can see what the house could be. So if you're looking to sell,
got it.
you
So,
can
yeah.
sell the vision as opposed to going and redoing your kitchen. And you can market the renovation loan product and put
As
out,
part of the marketing process.
right, you can put out the cost and then what the house would be worth after, and then sell that vision. And
Awesome.
my phone's ringing. No, it's only not disturbed.
It'll stop it, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, well, that's awesome, right? Because I didn't really consider the fact that sellers could actually use this loan as a marketing tool. And it's being used by, I guess, definitely more and more these days. I'm realizing that loans are being used sort of as a marketing strategy more than they have been in the past.
Yeah.
And that's a huge impact for sellers because then you don't necessarily have to make the repairs beforehand, but you can still entice the buyer with the instant equity that they're going to gain from this whole thing.
Yep.
Which means makes it easier for your agent because they're going to sell the property faster, and it makes it more approachable for first-time home buyers who are like nervous about homes that aren't like in excellent condition, because a lot of people are moving out of a rental situation and they have, sometimes, if they're not, with one of the less reputable landlords, they have someone they can call, like, if it's too snowy or if there's a leak somewhere, there's someone they can call. And when you're a first-time home buyer, that's a huge concern. Like, what happens if something breaks down? So that's a huge advantage for sellers to be able to, market a less, brand new property in a neighborhood that's probably like booming in a lot of places. They have an older property and they want to compete with the like new construction stuff. It's a huge way to.
Yeah, just go ahead and price it out.
Yeah.
And lay out the vision for the future home buyer. It'll be a lot less work,
Right.
a lot less risk for you as a homeowner to sell without having to do those renovations.
Exactly. And then, yeah.
The one thing about doing the renovations is I've seen people that have redone their kitchen to sell. Well, everybody's taste is different, right?
Exactly.
And I mean, you could walk into a house and say, this is amazing, even though it's a brand new kitchen. Somebody else could come and say, well, it's okay. I wish the cabinets were black.
Yeah.
And you put in brand new white cabinets.
Brand new.
So now you turn it off, half the people, so just let them customize the house, and it's also less risk for you as a seller.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's definitely something I advise sellers. Like, instead of one, sometimes they spend too much on the renovation, but secondly, they tend to make it a little too personalized or to their taste, and then that definitely doesn't always help. You know what I mean? It's just you're like limiting. It's a very polarizing thing, kitchens, and bad finishes in general. It took me a long time to stop saying, oh, that's terrible, but then realizing that, everybody's taste isn't like mine. Some people like things that I don't like. So what are the first steps to getting this whole renovation loan sitch happening?
Yeah, so the first steps are definitely going to be to connect with your realtor, connect with Charissa.
Me.
And identify some properties that could be candidates for a renovation loan.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have a property in mind, what you need to do is you need to get a rough idea of what your renovations would cost. And you don't need a line item estimate to the penny to just start to roll around the idea. You just need rough numbers. Okay, we're going to buy it for $200,000. Looks like we need a kitchen, maybe $30,000 to $40,000. You kind of want to figure where you're going to be, and then make sure that the after repair value is there. And that's where Charissa, as your realtor, is going to help you. She's going to look at the comps to say, okay, a house in this neighborhood with a new kitchen, with a new bathroom, with a finished basement would sell for X.
Yep.
As long as those rough numbers work, then you can move forward into really finding your contractor, nailing down the estimates to the dollar. But you don't have to do that up front. You just need some rough numbers, and you know, Charissa as your real estate agent will help you with those numbers.
Yeah.
And then, you know, contracting numbers, we can plug you in with some people that might be able to just give you some roundabout numbers.
Great. All right, so since we're talking about actual projects, let's take a look at
Yeah.
the example that we have for you guys here. So Chris is gonna scoot out of the way and we're gonna pull up this property, which is 839 McKean, actually currently on the market right now. We've got Grandpa in the picture here. Oh, I should close this thing. Boom, there we go. Can you tell I'm like not a videographer person? This is just, hey, real estate agent. All right, moving on. So we can take a peek here at this kitchen. Like, it's not a bad kitchen, but it's an older kitchen. Definitely might want to spruce it up. I like, you know,
Good 90s
yeah,
kitchen.
it's a great 90s kitchen. But we are not even in the 90s anymore. So some people might want to renovate that. I think there was a picture of the bathroom here too. This bathroom is not in terrible shape, but you know, it could use some updating if that's your style. Like, it totally is not a necessary thing, but maybe you don't need a tub, you know, you don't need a jacuzzi, or, you know, so I've had some people not be so excited about a previously used jacuzzi. The comparison property, this property actually is going for $239,000 right now. It is a 3-bedroom, 1.5 baths. So, or yeah, 2 1.5 baths. So kind of your standard, you know, South Philly row home. And I'm going to show you in comparison 915 Hoffman, which I am showing today at an open house. You should come see it in person here, shameless plug. And 915 Hoffman is brand new to the market, 4 days on the market, and it is going for $345,000. And as you can see here, let's take a peek at the kitchen. It's beautiful, right? And if we did about 50K, if you can see it, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the address is 915 Hoffman again. If you'd like to see it in real life, you just come see it. But yeah, the kitchen looks much better, is way more, you know, modern and to more people's taste, honestly, you know, based on my experience. And if you did about 50K worth of work, it would bring it right up to this value at $345,000. So that's pretty much 50K in equity right away.
Yeah, and that
Right?
that example is very common. You know, you
Right.
can get the house that's outdated, it'll let me see back. It'll sit on the market for a while, so there's a lot more opportunities if you have some vision. Everybody is looking for this, right?
Right.
Everybody, you're competing with everybody that's out there in this market that wants to buy a home. They all want the quartz countertops. They all want the stainless steel appliances.
Right.
So, you know, when you walk into the house that's a dog, that's, you know, has the older kitchen, there's so many people that just turn around.
Right.
But if you can see, I mean, this kitchen didn't start out like this. I mean, this one's probably, you know, I don't know, over, you know, whatever, 80 years old.
Yeah,
60 years old.
exactly.
So you renovate. That's what you do.
Right.
And it's not common to pick up, you know, 50,000. In that example, your down payment with the purchase price of 250, renovations at 50, your down payment would be about 10.5. So for 10,500 on an FHA 203K loan, that's your down payment. That's it, and you're gonna pick up 50,000 in instant equity.
Yeah, so that's huge ROI right there. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you don't have to be an investor. You don't have to.
Exactly.
You just have to have some vision. Good real estate agent, good lender, 50K in your pocket.
Boom.
So.
Awesome. So at this point, I kind of want to open it up to questions for the 5 million viewers we have today.
It's 5 million and one.
I know.
See you out there.
There you go. If you have any questions, feel free to like ask them now. Anybody have questions? No.
And
No.
kind of while we're waiting for that, just tell them how to get in touch with us.
Oh, yes. So if you're interested in moving forward, you know, we talked about the first steps. If you have that down, wait, actually I had a question before we do that.
Yeah.
What if you wanted to use a grant for your down payment? Can you do that? Or do you have to bring the money yourself?
You can use, some grant projects are approved for this.
Mhm.
The Philly
Philly First?
would work. on the MPJ 203K, that would work. You can get gifts from family members.
Oh,
or
good, you can get a gift?
You can get a gift.
Christmas is coming.
So, and what else can you do? You can get, we talked about the down payment. The closing costs are another part of it that you will need. You can get seller assistance.
Oh,
to
there
pay
you go.
for
Yeah,
the
there's
closing
seller
costs.
assistance as
So,
well.
I mean, there are a lot of ways to get into these projects without a lot of money. And I don't know, many other investments where you can, put out such a low amount of money.
Right, and
And-
still get a nice house,
And get a
a
nice
really nice house.
A really nice house.
You know what I mean? Or at least a nice kitchen, which is what everybody wants.
Everybody hangs in the kitchen. We all know that.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
even
where
know
the
what rest
party
of our
is.
house is for.
I know, honestly.
So, but yeah, I mean, anything as far as.
Yeah, so you can use grants from, I guess,
Yeah,
the
Philly
Philly
First
First.
grant
Philly
will
First
work.
is a great grant, so if you're already approved for that, you're ready to go. Like, you could be in your new place by, 45 days from now. I'm like, I'm not counting that. I'm like, I'm not making any promises. All right, so if you're feeling like you're ready, you should be, because I'm kind of excited at this point.
Who doesn't want instant equity?
Yeah, who doesn't like instant equity? Just go ahead and text best lender to 36260. And that will give you access to your first time home buyer toolkit. And that, there's a couple tools in there to get you started. We'd love to, if you'd like to start with also a consultation, we can get you started that way. Generally, I'm usually going second after the pre-approval just because it guides what houses we see, to be 100% honest. Yeah, exactly. Chris
The money, it's always about
Chris
the
is
money.
the big cheese here. He's the head honcho. So once he tells me how much we can spend, I can really drill down into the market and see like what you can afford and what is going to give you the best resale value, because that's huge for me. I always want you to, I'm always thinking about what is your asset going to be worth in 10 years or in 5 years. Ideal, and like, this is also a win-win for you because, if you have 50K in equity right away, if you need to sell in 5 years, you're going to make that back. You know what I mean? Like that's really great. So that's pretty much it for today.
Yeah, and again, so if you want to reach out to us, just send a text to 36260. And in the text, just put best lender. That'll kick you back all of our contact information, a link to the first time homebuyer tools. And if you want it, you can reach out through that, and we could even give you, some 203K renovation information, anything you need. So just text best lender to 36260, and that'll get you all of our information.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully there's definitely gonna be more information. I'd like to drill into the seller side of this a little bit more.
Yeah.
And, we'll be bringing you more fun podcasts. Not podcast.
Chris is
I
so
don't know
excited.
what I'm doing. I'm just happy and I'm excited. I want to buy some houses. Let's do it.
right.
Thanks for joining me, Chris.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having
Appreciate it.
me. Thanks for tuning
Thanks
in,
for
all
joining
5
us.
million and one of our viewers.
Yeah.
Really appreciate
It's
it.
so popular.
So, all right,
right.
guys, have an awesome day.
Take care.
Later.
Bye. All right. Hit download on yours, oops, or record, save. Yeah.
It's gonna be a long time to save. So, yeah, which is, I think this room works great with the, I don't know how the lighting will be with that. Examples and then we'll watch out a little.
I don't know how to end this. Okay, clicking OK will end. Okay.
All right, so is it?